The signal arrived without warning, slicing through Earth's tangled web of satellite traffic and radio chatter, like a thunderclap in a silent cathedral. At first, scientists at the Deep Space Listening Posts thought it was a glitch, some interference from a dying star, or perhaps a coded message from a secret government program. But the pattern was unmistakable. It was a message, deliberate and unmistakably alien. Governments across the globe scrambled to decode it, their brightest minds working feverishly under strict secrecy. When the true content was finally revealed, the world held its breath. The Galactic Imperium, an ancient, sprawling empire that controlled thousands of star systems, had discovered Earth. Their message was chillingly concise. Submit to Imperium rule, surrender your sovereignty and technology, or face total annihilation. Broadcast across every frequency, every screen, every digital device capable of receiving it, the ultimatum was both a threat and a test. The Imperium demanded Earth bow like all the others had before. The galaxy's great Leviathan had stirred, and its hunger was insatiable. In the grand conference halls of the United Nations and secret bunkers beneath the great cities, leaders argued. Some pleaded for peace, urging swift surrender to save humanity from inevitable destruction. Others shouted of resistance, of the centuries of hardship and bloodshed humanity had endured, wars, plagues, climate collapse, and how this moment would define the species forever. Among them was Dr. Elena Vargas, a former astrophysicist turned diplomat who had spent her career trying to prepare Earth for exactly this moment, though she never expected it to come so soon. Standing before the United Nations Assembly, she spoke with quiet but unyielding conviction. "We are not the primitive people they believe us to be," she said, her voice steady as cameras recorded every word. "Yes, we have scars and faults, but we have ingenuity, resilience, and the fierce will to survive. We will not kneel." Her words struck a chord that rippled through the assembly, and through millions watching around the world. The old divisions between nations, ideologies, and conflicts seemed to fade in the face of a greater threat. Across the planet, something unexpected happened. People, young and old, from cities and rural towns, from every race and creed, rallied around a common cause. Viral videos of everyday heroes pledging to defend Earth flooded social media. Stories emerged of families preparing shelters, engineers reactivating dormant factories, and children dreaming not of escape, but of victory. But this defiance was not unanimous. Powerful factions feared the cost. They warned of ruin and death on a scale no one had ever seen. Secret negotiations with Imperium representatives began, while simultaneously, covert programs accelerated military research and development. Earth was caught between the blade and the fire. Late one night, under the flickering lights of a hidden command center, General Marcus Hale stared at the holographic star map. Ships of the Imperium, vast and inscrutable, were already moving into position just beyond the solar system's outer edge. The clock was ticking. "This isn't just a war for territory," Hale said to his officers. "It's a war for our identity, for everything we've ever fought for. They think we're weak because we're young, chaotic, unrefined. Let them learn what it means to face humanity." Far above the planet, in orbit, a joint global fleet was hastily assembled. A ragtag armada of refurbished satellites, mining ships retrofitted with weapons, and experimental prototypes hidden away for decades. The defenders of Earth were preparing for a war they had never asked for. And then, the Imperium's transmission came again, a final, cold warning. If humanity did not submit within hours, their first strike would begin. In cities across Earth, the sky blazed with the fiery trails of launch vehicles. Rockets and missiles fired to bolster orbital defenses. Communications buzzed with tension and anticipation. Mothers hugged their children tighter. Soldiers kissed loved ones goodbye. And as the countdown to war began, a single broadcast cut through the chaos. A live feed from an unknown source. A young woman standing on a rooftop under the stars. Her voice was calm, resolute, and simple. They demanded our submission. We answered with fire in the sky. The message echoed worldwide, a spark that would ignite humanity's fiercest battle yet. The galaxy was watching. Earth was no longer a backwater planet. It was a force awakened, dangerous, unpredictable, and ready to fight. The fire had been lit. Beneath the world's fragile veneer of peace, something had been growing in silence. The Imperium had judged Earth by its surface, fractured governments, outdated technology, centuries of internal conflict. But they did not know humanity's greatest secret, the years spent preparing for the impossible. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, hidden from prying eyes and satellite scans, massive shipyards hummed with relentless energy. The cavernous complex, carved by past generations of explorers and engineers, was home to Earth's greatest military innovation. Here, sleek warships were born, vessels not merely repaired from scavenged wreckage, but engineered for a new kind of warfare, fast, flexible, and utterly ruthless. The TSV Vengeance was the jewel of this hidden fleet, a sleek battleship forged from alloys, scavenged from the asteroid belt, and powered by a fusion core that hummed with the promise of destruction. Its crew trained in simulated battles against the Imperium's most fearsome war machines, preparing for a fight that most thought would never come. Dr. Elena Vargas had returned, now wearing the uniform of the Terran Defense Compact. She walked through the corridors of the Vengeance, her eyes sharp as she observed the crew preparing for deployment. These were the people who would face the Imperium's fury head-on, and she was determined they would be ready. "We've underestimated ourselves for too long," she said in a briefing to the ship's commanders. "This is not just a war of weapons, it's a war of wills, of cunning, and of survival. The Imperium expects us to fold, but we will surprise them. We have to." Away from the Antarctic shipyards, Earth's secret weapons extended beyond the visible. On the Moon, orbital cannon platforms stood ready, massive artillery capable of firing shells at targets hundreds of thousands of kilometers away with devastating precision. These platforms had been built under the guise of scientific research and asteroid mining, but now their true purpose was clear: to keep Earth's enemies at bay. Even more dangerous were the AI-driven swarms, thousands of autonomous drones hidden within asteroid clusters in the belt. Programmed with adaptive combat algorithms, they could attack, retreat, and reconfigure themselves faster than any organic pilot could react. When unleashed, they would be a nightmare for the Imperium's ships. Farther out, in the frozen oceans of Europa and Ganymede, colossal dreadnoughts waited in silent slumber. These AI-controlled war machines have been designed for long-range strikes, their weapon systems capable of leveling entire enemy fleets with a single salvo. Earth had kept these hidden not only for defense, but as a last resort deterrent. Back on Earth, ordinary citizens were becoming extraordinary. The old factories had been transformed overnight into weapons foundries, their assembly lines pumping out everything from precision-guided missiles to improvised but deadly urban defense systems. Engineers and programmers worked around the clock, transforming civilian tech into military-grade gear. Children grew up with stories of alien invasions and heroic resistance, their imaginations fueling a new generation of soldiers and innovators. In the sprawling city of New Lagos, Captain Amina Okoye drilled her squad in hand-to-hand combat. "We're not just fighting in space," she told her troops. "This is our home. The Imperium thinks they can break us with ships and lasers, but they've never faced the fire of people defending what they love. We fight in the streets, in the tunnels, in every shadow." The Imperium's spies underestimated the human spirit and the adaptability that had kept Earth alive through millennia of hardship. As the alien fleets moved closer, the Terran Defense Compact launched cyberattacks that disrupted enemy communications, launched guerrilla strikes on supply depots hidden in the outer colonies, and infiltrated Imperium command structures with agents fluent in their technology and culture. In an underground bunker near the ruins of Old Moscow, Dr. Vargas studied intercepted transmissions. "They think they're dealing with barbarians," she said, eyes narrowing. But we've learned from every war our ancestors fought. We turn their precision into chaos. Their arrogance will be their undoing. Night after night, across the globe, human eyes scanned the skies. Satellites tracked the distant, silent approach of the Imperium fleet, a ghostly shadow growing larger with every passing hour. But beneath the surface, Earth's heartbeat quickened, fueled by determination and the promise of vengeance. As Earth's hidden arsenal came to life, humanity remembered what it meant to fight, not just for survival, but for freedom. The galaxy might see a scattered planet of primitive tribes, but Earth was a furnace, smoldering beneath the ice, ready to erupt in flames that would scorch the stars. The vast expanse of Earth's orbit was calm, deceptively so. From the surface, millions gazed upward, their eyes tracing the tiny points of light that marked humanity's fragile foothold in space. But above, something far more ominous was approaching. The Imperium's envoy ship, the Dominus Seraph, was a masterpiece of alien engineering, sleek, towering, and bristling with weaponry. It slid into Earth's gravitational sphere like a shadow swallowing the sun, its sensors probing the blue planet with clinical detachment. The Imperium expected submission, a silent nod of compliance, perhaps even celebration at the dawn of their rule. Instead, they were met with silence. For hours, the Dominus Seraph broadcast a message demanding Earth's leaders step forward to surrender and accept their fate as a client world. The Imperial Herald's voice was cold and absolute, dripping with centuries of conquest and unquestioned dominion. But the Terran Defense Compact had other plans. In the hardened command room of the Orbital Defense Grid, General Marcus Hale and his officers watched the enemy vessel, their eyes flicking between tactical displays and the live feed from the Dominus Seraph. "Keep all channels open," Hale ordered, voice low and steady. "Let them hear what we're about to do." As the deadline passed with no reply, Earth's orbital weapons system hummed to life. Arrays of railguns, particle cannons, and kinetic interceptors locked onto the envoy. The tension was palpable. The fate of humanity hung in the balance. Then came the order. Fire. Hypersonic rods, launched from orbital platforms thousands of kilometers above the surface, tore through the void. They struck the Dominus Seraph like thunderbolts, punching through its energy shields with brutal precision. The ship erupted in a fiery explosion that lit up the blackness like a nova. Across Earth, live broadcasts captured the moment. The world watched as the alien flagship disintegrated in a spectacular blaze, fragments tumbling into the void. Cheers erupted in some cities, shock and horror in others. On the surface, Dr. Elena Vargas stood before the media, her face illuminated by the flickering light of monitors. Her voice was steady but charged with emotion. "We will not be bowed. This is our answer. This is Earth's declaration." The Imperium's reaction was swift and merciless. Across the stars, word spread of Earth's defiance like wildfire. No planet had ever dared attack an envoy, a sacred tradition in the galaxy's brutal political dance. The Imperium's commanders were stunned and in rage. High on a war council in the Imperium's capital world, Supreme Commander Rizalek paced before a massive star map. His reptilian features twisted in disbelief. "They have crossed a line no species should ever cross," he snarled. "This insolence must be crushed. We will show them the price of defiance." Back in Earth's orbit, the mood was tense. The initial victory had come at a cost. Imperium reinforcements would be on their way, and Earth's defenses would be tested as never before. Soldiers checked weapons, engineers ran last-minute diagnostics, and pilots tightened their grips on control sticks. Captain Amina Okoye sat in the cockpit of her fighter, eyes scanning the dark horizon. Her voice crackled over comms. "This is just the beginning. We fight now, or we die under their boots." On Earth, ordinary citizens braced for impact. Some joined militias, others helped build defenses. Children watched the skies, not with fear, but with fierce pride. Humanity had drawn its line in the cosmic sand, and there was no turning back. Meanwhile, covert operations began to unfold. Black Ops teams slipped into the shadows, sabotaging Imperium supply lines on nearby moons and hacking communication arrays. The war was no longer just in orbit. It had begun in the shadows as well. Among these operatives was Jax Tanner, a former thief-turned-soldier, whose skills in infiltration and sabotage made him invaluable. As he melted into the tunnels of a captured asteroid outpost, Jax knew every small victory would chip away at the Imperium's iron grip. "The Imperium thinks they're gods," he muttered, "but even gods bleed." The Imperium's first strike was merciless and overwhelming. Warships arrived in waves, bombarding orbital stations and forcing Earth's fleet into desperate defensive maneuvers. Explosions rocked space, casting eerie glows over the dark void. Yet, humanity refused to yield. From command centers buried deep underground, orders flew out: counterattacks, evasive maneuvers, emergency evacuations. The battle for Earth's survival had truly begun, and somewhere, in the heart of the Terran fleet, the TSV Vengeance prepared to lead the charge, a symbol of Earth's indomitable spirit. As firestorms raged across the skies, humanity's message burned bright and clear. They had answered the Imperium's demand with fire. Mars was supposed to be humanity's stepping stone, a barren, cold frontier where colonies would one day thrive. But now, its rust-colored canyons and icy poles had become the battlefield where Earth's defiance was tested in brutal reality. The red planet's thin atmosphere did little to soften the roar of engines or the thunder of gunfire. Human forces, a mix of Terran soldiers, miners-turned-fighters, and hardened mercenaries, were dug in across the sprawling Martian valleys, their silhouettes stark against the ochre sky. Captain Amina Okoye stood on a ridge overlooking the sprawling base of New Eris, her eyes scanning the horizon. The Imperium's patrol ships glinted like predators above, searching for weaknesses to exploit. Earth's foothold was precarious, but surrender was not an option. "We hold this ground," she said to her squad, her voice steel wrapped in fire. "Every inch is ours. Every breath is a promise." The Imperium launched their assault at dawn, armored walkers and flying gunships pouring over the ridges in a relentless tide. The sound of plasma bolts and explosions shattered the Martian silence, sending clouds of red dust swirling into the air. Human defenders fought back fiercely. They knew every canyon, every crater, a knowledge earned through years of terraforming attempts and mining operations. The planet itself was their ally, a rugged fortress that swallowed up the enemy's advances. Sergeant Malik, a veteran of Earth's countless wars, led a squad through a narrow ravine, planting explosive charges on an enemy supply convoy. "Hit them where it hurts," he growled, lighting the fuse. The ensuing blast shook the ground, crippling the Imperium's advance and buying precious time. But the Imperium's machines adapted quickly. Their commanders unleashed elite shock troops, genetically enhanced soldiers who moved with unnatural speed and precision. These warriors hunted humans relentlessly, their cold discipline clashing violently with human improvisation and grit. In the heat of battle, Captain Okoye's squad found themselves surrounded in the labyrinthine tunnels beneath the Martian surface. Ambushed, their ammo running low, the situation grew desperate. "Hold the line," Okoye barked, rallying her troops. "We don't retreat. Not here. Not now." Outnumbered and outgunned, they fought tooth and nail, every firefight a brutal test of endurance. The Martian dust stained uniforms and burned lungs, but the human spirit burned brighter. In a harrowing stand atop a crumbling ridge, Okoye faced the Imperium's lead shock commander, a towering figure clad in armor that shimmered with energy fields. Their weapons clashed in a deadly dance of skill and fury, each strike echoing across the barren landscape. As the battle raged, an unexpected call came through on Okoye's comm. Reinforcements were on the way, Earth's hidden fleet arriving to provide orbital support. But it was a race against time. Below, human engineers worked feverishly to activate a dormant defense grid, ancient Martian tech unearthed and reprogrammed to emit powerful electromagnetic pulses capable of crippling enemy electronics. The desert winds whipped the dust around as circuits sparked to life. The first wave of pulses rippled through the battlefield, short-circuiting Imperium weapon systems and stunning their troops. Seizing the moment, human forces surged forward with renewed vigor, turning desperation into hope. Yet victory demanded sacrifice. Sergeant Malik, caught in a crossfire while covering his squad's retreat, took a fatal blast. His last words, "For Earth," echoed in the hearts of those left behind. Mars had become a graveyard of blood and fire, but also a forge where humanity's resolve was tempered. The Imperium learned quickly that Earth's children fought not just with technology, but with something no machine could replicate: raw determination, fierce loyalty, and the unyielding will to survive. As the sun dipped below the Martian horizon, casting long shadows over the scared landscape, Captain Okoye gazed at the burning wreckage of enemy war machines. "We bought Earth time," she whispered, voice heavy with loss and defiance. "And we'll keep fighting, on Mars, on Earth, wherever they come." The battle for Mars was only the beginning. The war for humanity's future had become a relentless storm, and the red dust would bear witness to every triumph and tragedy. Titan's orange haze was a deceptive veil, softening the light from distant sun to a muted glow. Beneath its thick atmosphere, the sprawling Titan station orbited like a sentinel, a fortress of steel and firepower guarding the outer edge of Earth's influence in the solar system. It was humanity's last stronghold before the dark abyss of interstellar space. As the Imperium's dreadnoughts advanced, their massive silhouettes blotting out the distant stars, the station's alarms blared, shaking the hull with relentless urgency. Command corridors flooded with soldiers and engineers scrambling to prepare for the oncoming storm. Admiral Lena Cross stood at the command bridge, her gaze steady but fierce. Years of war had carved lines into her face, but her spirit was unyielding. "This is our shield and our sword," she said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of all who depended on her. "If Titan falls, so does everything behind it." The Imperium fleet moved like a tidal wave, unleashing torrents of plasma and missile barrages that pounded the station's shields. Titan's defense turrets flared in response, ripping streaks through the onrushing enemy. The battle was a symphony of light and fury, explosions rippling through the void. Inside the station, civilians and soldiers alike braced for the fight. Families huddled in shelters, engineers raced to repair damaged systems, and medics tended to the injured. Titan was not just a military outpost. It was a home, a beacon of humanity's stubborn light in the darkness. The battle escalated into a brutal siege. Imperium boarding parties breached the outer hull, igniting fierce firefights in cramped corridors. Gunfire echoed, mixing with the cries of the wounded and the mechanical groans of the battered station. Amid the chaos, Captain Amina Okoye's unit was deployed to repel the invaders. Their mission was clear: hold the station's core reactors at all costs. The corridors became a crucible, a deadly chessboard where every move counted. Okoye moved with ruthless precision, rallying her troops through smoke and debris. "We fight for Titan. We fight for Earth." In the depths of the station, Dr. Elena Vargas worked feverishly in the research labs. Her hands trembled as she prepared a secret weapon, a prototype energy bomb capable of releasing a pulse powerful enough to disable the entire Imperium fleet in orbit. This could end it all, she whispered to herself. But the weapon was volatile, untested in battle, and detonating it would mean sacrificing Titan itself. Back on the bridge, Admiral Cross made the hardest decision of her career. With a grim nod, she authorized the activation of the weapon. "Prepare for detonation," she ordered. "This is our last stand." Moments before the blast, a haunting broadcast was sent to Earth, a farewell from Titan Station. The message was raw and unfiltered, voices filled with pain, hope, and defiance. "We may fall here," Admiral Cross's voice crackled through the static, "but the fire of humanity will never die. Remember us. Fight on. The energy bomb detonated in a blinding flash, sending a shockwave rippling through space. Imperium ships erupted in cascades of fire and debris, their systems fried by the electromagnetic pulse. The station itself shook violently, steel groaning as its hull fractured. Titan Station was a ruin, but it had bought Earth time, precious hours to regroup, rebuild, and prepare for the battles to come. As the smoke cleared and the battered remnants of the fleet limped away, the galaxy took note. Earth's defenders had sacrificed a fortress, and more, for a chance to stand against the Imperium. On Earth, the broadcast became a symbol. Songs were written, stories told, and children taught the courage of Titan's last stand. It was a testament to humanity's spirit, willing to face annihilation, but never to surrender. Admiral Cross's final transmission lingered in the minds of millions. The war is far from over, but we have lit a beacon in the darkness. The galaxy will remember Titan. And so, from the shattered remains of a dying station, humanity's war cry rose louder than ever. In the dark corridors of the Imperium's occupied colonies, a whisper grew into a roar. The once unquestioned reign of the Galactic Empire was cracking, fractured by the unexpected fury of a planet they had dismissed as weak. The resistance was born not from grand strategy, but from desperation and hope. Scattered pockets of colonists, exiled scientists, and disillusioned soldiers formed underground networks, striking at the Imperium's supply lines and communications. They were ghosts in the machine, invisible yet deadly. Among them was a figure cloaked in secrecy, Jax Tanner. Once a thief, now a soldier of the shadows, Jax led a faction known as the Phoenix Cells. Their operations ranged from sabotage to intelligence gathering, and their symbol, a fiery bird rising from ashes, became a beacon for rebels across the stars. In the dim glow of a hidden safe house on Titan's fractured moon, Jax and his team prepared for their most daring mission yet, to infiltrate an Imperium command center and steal the plans for a new weapon, one capable of obliterating entire cities from orbit. This is more than sabotage, Jax told his crew, eyes burning with determination. If we succeed, we cripple their ability to wage war. If we fail, well, failure isn't an option. The plan was risky. They would use stolen Imperium uniforms and forged credentials to penetrate the heavily guarded fortress. Inside, they would download data, plant explosives, and disappear before the enemy knew what hit them. The operation began under the cover of a swirling storm, Titan's turbulent atmosphere hiding their approach. Every step was a dance with death. One wrong move, one slip of the tongue, and they would be executed as traitors. Inside the command center, Jax's heart pounded as he navigated maze-like corridors. Surveillance cameras swept past, guards patrolled with suspicion, and tension coiled in every shadow. At the data vault, Jax's hacker, Lyra, worked quickly, fingers flying over the interface. The encrypted files revealed chilling details, a weapon capable of turning Earth's cities to ash in minutes. "We have to stop this," Lyra whispered. "No planet can survive that." As alarms blared, the team moved swiftly, planting charges and slipping out through secret tunnels known only to a few. Explosions ripped through the command center, crippling communications and throwing the Imperium into chaos. But their escape was perilous. Imperium troops poured into the streets, hunting the rebels like beasts. In a desperate chase through Titan's shadowed ruins, Jax faced down an elite Imperium hunter, an adversary as ruthless as he was skilled. Their fight was brutal and silent, a deadly game of shadows and blades. In the end, Jax's cunning and resolve won, but the victory came with a cost, a grievous wound that would haunt him in the battles ahead. Back on Earth, news of the Phoenix Cell's success spread like wildfire, inspiring uprisings on occupied worlds and shaking the Imperium's confidence. Dr. Elena Vargas watched the reports, a rare smile touching her lips. "This is what we needed," she said softly. "Not just weapons, but hope. The galaxy will learn. Humanity will never be broken. As the Imperium scrambled to rebuild and retaliate, the rebels disappeared into the night, their flames burning brighter in the darkness. The war had entered a new phase, one where the smallest spark could ignite a revolution. The battlefield had shifted. Where once the Imperium's shadow loomed vast and unchallenged, now streaks of fire carved through the void, marking humanity's relentless counterattack. The TSV Vengeance, flagship of Earth's hidden fleet, led the charge. Captain Amina Okoye stood at the helm, eyes steely with determination as the stars streaked past. This was no longer a desperate defense. It was a fight to reclaim what was theirs. Target the enemy supply lines, Okoye commanded, voice calm but fierce. Cut off their reinforcements. We hit hard. We hit fast. The crew obeyed with precision. Missiles launched from hidden bays streaked toward the Imperium's logistics convoys. Drones swarmed in deadly clouds, intercepting enemy fighters with deadly accuracy. Far below, on Earth, Dr. Elena Vargas coordinated cyber offensives that crippled Imperial communications and navigation systems. The Imperium's once cohesive war machine faltered under coordinated assaults from above and below. In a secret command center on Earth, General Marcus Hale watched the shifting tides of battle. "The Imperium underestimated us," he said grimly. "Now, we'll make them pay." The Imperium's commanders scrambled to respond, but the chaos was overwhelming. Rebel attacks had fractured their supply chains and scattered their forces. In the void of space, battles erupted around vital star systems, with humans striking unexpected blows. Among the fiercest fighters was Jax Tanner, leading his Phoenix cells in a daring raid on an Imperial fortress world. Using guerrilla tactics, they disabled orbital defenses and sparked uprisings within the colonies. Each victory, no matter how small, was a blow to Imperial morale. But the Imperium was not without its champions. Supreme Commander Urzalek, bruised but unbowed, marshaled the remnants of his fleet. His cold eyes burned with fury as he prepared a final devastating assault aimed directly at Earth's heart. Back on the Vengeance, Okoye received intelligence of the impending strike. "This is it," she said quietly. "We hold, or we fall." The battle that followed was a tempest of light and fire. Imperial dreadnoughts launched volleys of plasma, their ships weaving through clouds of debris and missile fire. Human pilots engaged in fierce dogfights, their ships darting like fireflies in the black. Okoye's squadron executed daring maneuvers, outflanking and overwhelming superior enemy numbers. Her fighter danced through enemy fire, each move precise and deadly. At a critical moment, the Vengeance unleashed its secret weapon, a burst of electromagnetic energy that crippled a cluster of enemy vessels, turning the tide. On Earth, citizens watched live feeds with bated breath. The war was no longer distant. It was here, and humanity was fighting back with every ounce of strength. But victory came at a cost. The Vengeance took heavy damage, and casualties mounted on both sides. Okoye's voice crackled over the comms, rallying her scattered forces. "We are not beaten. We are the storm that breaks the Imperium's chains." As the smoke of battle cleared, the Imperium retreated, battered but vowing revenge. Humanity had won this day, but the war was far from over. Yet, for the first time, Earth's people dared to dream of freedom. The tides had turned. The battle for Earth was no longer a distant threat. It was an inferno blazing across the heavens. The Imperium's fleet, battered but relentless, surged toward the blue planet in one final desperate attempt to crush humanity's defiance. Below, Earth's defenses bristled with determination. From fortified orbital stations to the sprawling surface installations, every weapon was primed. The world held its breath as the skies ignited with war. Captain Amina Okoye, battered but unbroken, stood on the bridge of the TSV Vengeance, now scared but still flying. Her eyes scanned the chaos ahead. Enemy warships cutting through the void like deadly shadows, flak and plasma carving fiery trails. "This is it," she murmured, voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. For Earth, for our future. As the Imperium's dreadnoughts closed in, the battle erupted into a maelstrom of light and fury. The Vengeance and Earth's fleet fought with the desperation of cornered wolves, their attacks precise and fierce. Below, on Earth's surface, millions watched the unfolding war on every screen, hearts pounding in unison. Children held their parents' hands, soldiers prayed silently, and leaders stood united in defiance. At the heart of the conflict, Dr. Elena Vargas activated the final phase of her secret weapon, a massive energy matrix buried deep beneath the planet's crust. It was designed to release a pulse strong enough to disable the Imperium ships in orbit, but it came with a terrible risk. The blast could also devastate Earth's own infrastructure. Sometimes, Elena whispered to herself, "To save a world, you must risk losing it." The energy matrix hummed to life, its glow visible even through the night sky. Above, the Imperium fleet faltered as systems failed and ships drifted powerless. Seizing the moment, Captain Okoye led the Vengeance and remaining fighters into a final, decisive assault. Her squadron sliced through the enemy ranks, targeting the flagship of Supreme Commander Orzelek himself. In a fierce dogfight, Okoye's fighter danced between plasma blasts and missile barrages. Every maneuver was a battle of wills, steel against steel, determination against tyranny. With a final daring strike, Okoye's weapons found their mark. The Imperial flagship exploded in a brilliant fireball, scattering debris across the void. The Imperium fleet, leaderless and crippled, began a chaotic retreat. The war was over. Earth's skies cleared, the stars shining once again over a battered but free planet. On the surface, celebrations erupted. Tears of joy mingled with sorrow for the fallen. The sacrifices had been immense, but humanity had endured. General Marcus Hale, standing amid the ruins of a command bunker, raised his voice so all could hear. Today we answered a demand for submission with fire. Today we proved that no empire, no matter how vast, can break the human spirit. Captain Okoye, battered but alive, looked to the horizon. We fought not just for survival, but for the right to be free. This is our legacy. Dr. Vargas, weary but hopeful, gazed at the stars. The sky will forever hold the memory of our fight, the fire we lit to banish the darkness. The Galactic Empire had demanded Earth's submission. Earth had answered with fire in the sky, and the galaxy would never forget.